All right, good morning, class. Quick update for you. This is your last week of budget challenge, so hooray for that. Especially if you've been doing it this whole time, because again, there's a lot of points coming from the budget challenge. But this is the last week, and even if you're behind, maybe you missed a week or two of doing quizzes, things like that. There are 70 points of quizzes this week that you can gain towards your grade. So even if you feel like, oh gosh, I missed 1 or 2 weeks, there's 70 points this week. Again, they're due by the 12th, so you need to make sure you do them. So take time to do your quizzes, because if you're way behind, 70 points can catch you a long way up. Because remember, you have to have 70 points of the total number of quiz points. That is 100% in the class. So again, let's just say there were 100 points and you got 70, you'd have 100% if you had 70 points out of 100. Or if it was 200, it'd be 140 out of 200 would be 100%, and then it would go down from there. So then if you had 70 out of 200, you'd have a 50%. Okay, so that's kind of where we're at. But again, so 70 points. I mean, if you get most of those points, you're talking about you've got 33% of the points that you needed for the whole entire thing. Approximately, but that's the goal, to do that. Also, your Excel sheet will be due as well. You can turn it anytime you want. You don't have to turn it on the 12th. If you are caught up and you have any entries from this week, that's all you need to turn that in. But you do need to turn that in as well, your H&R Excel sheet. Again, if there's huge gaps where there's nothing paid for, again, obviously there may be a week or something where you already had them paid for, things like that, that's fine. But you need to make sure that there's not a huge gap where there's just nothing, because then to me it's going to be, oh, you didn't pay attention for 2 weeks or whatever. And also, try to make sure that it's close. It does not need to be exact dollar for dollar with what your online says. But if you're way off, again, if your thing says you have $2,000, but the game says you have, $1,000, and I'll go by the date. So obviously, maybe something happens at a different time. But if on the corresponding dates, the last date, it's way off, when you go back and try to fix things, okay? And the statements are all there, so you can go back and check. But those two things, and then engagement, how many times you logged in is also how you're going to be graded as well. So make sure you get that in. Again, 70 points of quizzes. I can't stress that enough. And that'll go a long way. Okay? And then we'll talk about something else here in a second. All right. Moving forward with our lesson, we finished talking about your options out of college. All right? We had 4-year college, 2-year college, trade school, VOTEC kind of thing, and then you have apprenticeship, military, and going straight into the workforce, which military is the same thing, but there's a lot of educational options out of the military, so it's a little bit different than just working, okay? But what we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk a little bit more about college and things like that, and if we have time, we'll get into the benefits and costs of working. But first, we have college. We're going to again, I had you look up some different colleges, but we have public and private. And then we'll have, in here, we'll have in-state and out-of-state. All right, now as you might have guessed, generally, public is going to be cheaper than private for the individual. Just a quick reminder of how private versus public works. Public is paid for by everyone. Everybody's federal taxes go into paying for public colleges. As private, it's tuition and then alumni. That's where all the money comes from. Generally, that's why they're more expensive. In high school, everybody, just for example, everybody in Cape Girardeau County they have taxes that go towards paying for the high school, the Cape Girardeau High School. That's why it's free to go to public high school. Everybody in the community. So whether you have kids going to Saxony, whether you have kids at all, anything, if you pay taxes, some of it goes towards that. So another thing is that, again, and so that's why private's more expensive in high school as well, because you're paying tuition that's not getting help from anyone except the churches. If you go to a church, a member church, you might get a discount, things like that. But again, it's actually cheaper per kid to send a school to private school compared to public, but you spread the cost out over 50,000 people instead of just one family. So that's where the difference comes from. But overall, it's like, I think it's like to put a kid all the way through school at Cape Central, I think it's somewhere between $40,000 and $50,000 of expenses, where it costs about, I think, $25,000 to $30,000 to pay for everything for a kid to go through Saxony. But again, you have tuition, you have other programs that do that paying and stuff. But back to colleges real quick. Again, if you did that assignment, the what's it cost to, what's the worth to be in class, it costs about $470 a day. Doesn't cost. You gain $475 a day by finishing high school. So each day of high school, you make $470. That's pretty good. Think about it. If you getting a paycheck every day, because that's how much on average someone who graduates high school compared to someone who doesn't makes in their lifetime. Will be enough for 4 years to make a $470 check. Now you could probably do $420, about $420, since you have to pay tuition to go to school. But with a higher average ACT score and things like that, then you get more out of it. But in-state, that obviously will be the cheapest route here, generally. Out-of-state usually costs more. And again, private might matter. Again, that's up to the school. Most don't. Most it's just, here's what you pay. But one thing to remember, just because it's public does not mean cheap. If you go to a big name school, a name brand school basically, remember that could be just as expensive. You go to Alabama, you go to Mizzou, you go to Kentucky. Those are expensive. Yeah, they offer scholarships. You can be cheap. But if you're going out of state to a school like that, or even just in-state to Mizzou, that can be very expensive. So don't just see, public, that's going to be cheaper. The big ones are usually going to be more expensive than even private, unless you're talking about a big private school, like Harvard, Yale, big schools like that. But again, one thing I just want to remind you, you don't need to go to the big name school for a lot of things. Now there are a couple things. Again, you would be a journalist. Okay, but maybe Mizzou or Northwest. I think Syracuse has a good journalism program. So some of them need names, but most things, the best example I can think of is education. SEMO is known for their education program, and you can go to SEMO if you're in state for like $10,000 if you get some basic educational scholarships. Okay. Again, if you had to pay everything, it's like $18,000 to go there. That's not too bad. It can cost somewhere between $15,000 to $25,000 a year for Mizzou to get the same degree. And again, no one's going to go, you might have one case here and there, but generally they see, okay, you've got your grades, you did your student teaching well, you got good recommendation letters. That's what they're looking at, not, Mizzou versus SEMO. Again, especially if SEMO is known for having a good education program. So, just things to think about. Again, in-state's going to be a lot cheaper than out-of-state. Again, name brand is not critical except for some small things. But then private, again, they have scholarships and things as well. But again, you're talking about there's not many private schools that are under $25,000 a year, just because it costs more it costs more per family to go, because they don't have the help of the federal government, or not as much help for sure. Okay, but that's the different types of public universities. Next, we're going to look at the ways that you can accidentally, or ways that it could cost you more to go to college. Okay, I lied. We're actually going to talk about just ways to save money in general, and then we'll talk about big expenses that can happen if you're not careful with college. All right, so first, the first thing we're going to do is streamline our expenses when we go to college. Because even if you do go to a college that, oh, that's within my price range, we can afford that, my family can afford that, things can change. You might lose scholarship, things like that. You may need money. Or, again, why come out with debt if you don't have to? We can find ways to save money and use towards other things, because those are always fun, okay? To be able to afford things and buy things, or just have extra stuff. You don't always have to live exactly to the dollar amount you have. If you want to put a little bit away or use it for charity, again, there's other options to use for money than just paying for things. All right, anyways, streamline expenses. It's very easy as a high schooler going into college to all of a sudden, okay, I'm on my own. Well, what do I buy? I've never bought things for myself. Mom does the grocery shopping usually, does all the clothes shopping. It's very easy to go crazy with expenses because you're probably going to have a credit card, or you'll definitely have access to your bank account more, things like that. It's easy to go spend money on things you don't need. Stick to a budget, okay? Have a plan. All right, food, this much. I'm going to do this many extracurricular things that's going to cost me this much. You got to have a plan. Otherwise, your money disappears. All right, avoid non-essential expenses. Again, if you're someone that every time you walk by the food court, or you walk by a place you have to buy something, get something, avoid that. Don't put that temptation there. Again, it's very easy to, man, I'm hungry, it's 11:30 p.m., but instead of just going to bed, you're like, well, guess what? There's food downstairs in the lobby. I'm going to go get some. Be careful to avoid non-essential expenses. If you can save money, save money. For example, again, this might come up later, but if you have to buy a book for a class, those can be $90 to $200. If you have to buy a separate book for a class, if you buy it new, it's, $90 to $200. Go on Amazon, you can find the same edition, maybe one version, the version from the year before. You can find that same thing for $20, $30 on Amazon, things like that. Again, if you do that every year, you're talking, you could save yourself $500 or more if you do that consistently. Discounts. You go anywhere near downtown, every restaurant has free drinks with SEMO ID, or 10% off, if you're a SEMO student, things like that. Use those discounts. There are a lot of places. Look for those, use them. Again, saves you a little bit of money here and there, adds up if you do it once a week, twice a week, things like that. Then, of course, look for freebies. Again, if you're a senior, you should already have been looking at those types of things. There is some stuff in here we'll look at, but for you as well. But again, juniors, sophomores, go out there, look for scholarships and grants. Scholarships, you may have to write a paragraph, a paper. You may just need to apply. There's thousands of them out there. This is okay to do quantity. You're looking quantity over quality. Again, you want to find things that you think of a good chance of getting, or an equal chance. You don't want to do something, again, if you have no Native American in you and there's a Native American scholarship, don't need to apply for that. You're probably not going to get it. But there's a lot where you just put your name out there, you just put your information in, and you're eligible to win. Why not? You might get it. Okay? So you have scholarships, grants. Grants are money for a purpose given by the government. So it's just basically free money. If you meet the criteria, you become eligible for a grant. Okay? But it's not money to pay back. It's not really a scholarship. It's money for people who need it. Okay? But you do have to qualify for it. All right, credit in high school. Some of you guys are doing that, taking dual credit classes. It's usually about a third cheaper to take it in high school than it is to take it at the university. Again, that's an average. It could be more, could be less, but a third. So instead of paying $600, you're paying $200 and something. All right, big difference. It adds up if you can take 5 or 6. Not only that, but you're ahead. So that means you may spend less time at college when you get there. All right. And then testing out options. This is important. I worked at testing services at SEMO. One of the things we did is we gave CLEP tests. And that is a test you take at college, but you take it before you actually take a class. And if you pass with a high enough score, you get the credit for the class without ever having to go to the classroom. I had a friend who I went to at Trinity, and then he went to Central. But then I saw his name constantly pop up at SEMO when I was working. Ethan Deuster's his name. He took about 7 or 8 CLEP tests and passed them all. That's 8 times 3, because that's the average number of hours a class is. So he did not have to take 21 hours of classes. He was able to take one test. If you score high enough, you either get 1 credit or 3 credits, depending on how each class works. But you can test out. So again, that test is $70. Classes are hundreds of dollars. So again, you can save yourself hundreds of dollars per class if you can test out. Again, at SEMO, they're called CLEP tests. Again, it allows you to take a test, you score high enough on it. Again, you don't want to take chemistry in college, you can CLEP test out of it. Okay, get a high enough score, then you're good to go. All right, so streamline expenses. Oh, come on. There we go. All right. Again, comparison shop. With your college, you want to establish minimum criteria. Okay. So what's the minimum you need? Because that may be what you go for is what the minimum things and the most important things as well. All right. Then you weigh your value with what you can afford. Does adding Mizzou's name, is it worth the extra $15,000 a year or whatever it may be? Is it worth that? You have to say, okay, sometimes it may be. Again, if you're going to be a journalist and your option's a small school somewhere versus Mizzou, Mizzou might get you a higher paying job compared to it. So, obviously if you can afford anything, then you can go with whatever you want, really, okay? But if you're on a budget of any kind, that's going to be important, okay? And then match your situation with your future plans. Again, if it's a requirement to go to a certain school to fit into certain what you plan to do in the future, then you may have to do that, all right? But just see what your future needs and then accordingly to make your decision. All right. Long-term, strategic about your income sources. What's long-term value? What are ways you can start doing things early on to jumpstart your career? Again, while you're in college, while you're in high school even, you can start volunteering or getting a part-time job at what you plan on doing in the future if you are that, if you have things figured out enough that you can start doing that. If you're deciding between 2 summer jobs or things, what's long-term value? Well, one gets you more prepared for the job you're looking for. Exploring the long-term start to your career, jumpstart, you can do things to do that. You can earn while you learn. Again, work while you're in college. Good morning, Mr. Clare. Apply for tuition and reimbursement. We're talking about this more when we talk about employment, but you can get reimbursed for going to college later. And then, again, one thing we definitely want to watch out for, and you see this with Dave Ramsey, if we can get him to work, is using loans with caution. Loans are a potential danger. We want to reduce loans as much as possible. If we can find scholarships to knock some of that off. Again, I was lucky enough not needed to get any loans. Not that I got everything paid for, but we got it down to a number that we could pay for it ourselves without getting a big loan. So we want to avoid loans as much as possible because, again, that takes away from our earning potential early on whenever we're starting actual life and we start our career. So we want to avoid as much loans as possible. And again, going to an affordable school may play a big role in that. All right. The other thing may be scoring well enough on your ACT, getting your GPA high enough, which allows you to be available for educational scholarships. But then again, getting scholarships from local banks, local organizations, that's also a big thing. If you can get a athletic scholarship, whatever it is, anything to reduce the price is a big plus. All right. Almost done with this lesson. All right. So again, some more things with college planning. Whatever you plan on doing, know your prerequisites. Know what you have to have done. All right. Different schools are different. A lot of community colleges don't have like a foreign language requirement. Mizzou, you have to have 2 years of foreign language to be accepted. So you may have a 4.0 GPA, all this kind of stuff. You may have a 30 ACT score, but you don't have 2 years of Spanish, that's all we offer. You cannot go to Mizzou. Know what your prerequisites are. Prepare to meet the requirements. Okay. Prepare to say, okay, maybe you need hours of volunteer hours. Maybe, again, at Saxony, we kind of require that anyway, so it should be kind of taken care of. But prepare to meet the requirements. Plan to cover all your costs, okay? Imagine, okay, maybe you got awarded a scholarship, maybe this or that, but you have to have a plan for what happens if the scholarship goes away. What action are you going to take? Again, we don't hope that happens, but you plan. We got to plan for it happening. Again, maybe something happens, your GPA drops, you lose your scholarship. Maybe a family member is sick, and they just need more money. Again, a number of things, but plan on paying for everything, and then you can say, okay, but I have scholarships, so right now I don't have to worry about all of them. But you plan to cover all the costs, tuition and living costs. If you start there, if you start thinking the worst, then whenever you improve it, you get scholarship, you get a job, whatever it is, then again, you're in the positive. Instead of planning on, okay, I'm good, I had the scholarship, and then the scholarship goes away for whatever reason, and then you're like, okay, how am I going to make up $20,000 I wasn't planning on paying on? Okay, so know that. Again, the biggest thing, make a plan. Look ahead. Don't just do things, don't just wing it all the time. Look at what you need to do, and see if you can knock some things out early, and you know if you're progressing at the rate you need to finish your plan. All right? Again, we're going to talk about this more in a second. You can start saving and investing money now. Every little bit helps. Again, we talked about the exponential power of investing or saving money. A little bit now can go a long way in the future. Don't wait till you're 30 to start investing in things like that. You want to start doing that now. All right. Again, get the courses you need there. We'll talk more about that. Explore options. Again, you do want to see what's out there. You want to see what kind of jobs you can get, what options you have for that, what school options are out there. Don't limit yourself to, oh, I heard somebody did this, this is what I'm going to do. Or, ever since I was 12, I've always wanted to do this, this is what I'm going to do. Again, 12-year-old you probably doesn't know as much as you do now. There may be some new interest. Don't just stick with something because you've always said that you were going to do it. So again, explore your options constantly. All right? And again, position yourself for all these things. Again, if you plan, you'll know if you're in position or not. Okay? All right. We're going to do one more little thing here, and that'll be it for today. All right, we're going to talk about big costs we want to avoid. Let's see if I can drag. Oh, come on, drag. Oh, why aren't you dragging? Oh, here we go. That's my problem. All right, we're going to look at your module just for a second. All right, we're going to talk about 3 costly college traps. All right. One thing we want to avoid is adding on time to your college career as much as possible. Again, the average is probably about 4.5 to 5 now because people come in not knowing, which is fine. You don't need to know as a freshman exactly what your degree is going to be. But again, the longer you're in school, the more it costs. And these things that we're going to look at here are going to cause you more money. Okay? So first is catch-up classes. All right? At CMO, there's something called EN99. Ian 98 too, I think, and there's math, remedial math. Those are high school level classes that people didn't get high enough ACT or GPA score enough in high school. If you have to take high school level classes while in college. What this means is you pay for the class, you have to pass it, and it progresses you 0 towards your major because it's not a college level course. It's just for people that couldn't get the work done in high school, they've got to do it there. That's adding time to your time at college. It's also adding expenses. Avoid catch-up classes. Get what you need done in high school. Okay, so don't blow off language arts classes, things like that. You need that done. Okay. Next is merry-go-round majors. Oh, where's my? There we go. Whoops. All right, merry-go-round majors. Don't declare too early and don't declare too late, okay? Don't come in and declare a major just to say you have one as a freshman. A lot of people make the mistake, well, everybody else knows what they're doing, I need to know what I'm doing. That's not the most important thing. You need to explore, see what you like. Again, if you are confident you know what it is, then go ahead and declare. But as soon as you declare, your advisor, your college advisor, is going to start putting you in classes for that major. So if you start doing that for 2 or 3 years and then you decide, man, I love, like for me, I started out wanting to be a physics major. I loved the first couple physics class I took. But when you got into actually doing the intense math, it wasn't for me. And if I had taken a whole bunch of physics classes, again, my advisor didn't go ahead and declare me a major. He signed me up for a couple. All those classes probably would not transfer to the degree that I want, which is education. I didn't need physics classes and high-level math classes for what I wanted to do. So that would add time. So don't be a merry-go-round major, okay? That's not a good thing. But if you don't want to wait too late either and just say, oh, I'm not 100% sure, and you're a junior, well, that means at minimum you're probably going to be graduating 5 or 6 years because certain classes are only eligible in certain times of the year. So you don't want to wait too long either, okay? Because I had some classes only were offered in the spring. So if you declare at the wrong time, that may automatically add on a semester because of the way the classes line up, okay? Or even a whole year. So avoid being a merry-go-round major. Explore first, know what you want, then do that. Next one is campus hopping, okay? If you're changing schools, it should be part of a plan, not just some random, oh, I'm homesick, or oh, my boyfriend or girlfriend is moving to a school. I'm going to go there too so I can be near them. Don't campus hop. Don't go from college to college for no purpose. Now, if you're going to JUCO, then go into a bigger school, that's part of a plan, okay? Or you're doing your pre-med and then you're going to do your med somewhere else, that's part of a plan. But what you don't want to do is move around a lot because some classes don't transfer. And every time a class doesn't transfer, the one that didn't transfer is a waste of money, waste of time, okay? Again, a common one is Rolla. It's very easy because they don't accept anybody else's math because they have magical math compared to everybody's regular math. They don't accept math classes from other colleges, what you do in high school, stuff like that. So you don't want to do a lot of that because it takes a lot of work, and some classes may not transfer from school to school, just depending. So you don't want to college hop, campus hop either. You want to stay at a school unless, again, it's part of the plan for you to get where you want to go. All right? So again, we'll have another lesson about your starting a career, but these are things you want to avoid, and we talked about some ways to be successful starting off with college as well. Okay? Have a good day. Funny when the mouse stops working.